Everyone is speaking out on this as the New York Jets quarterback situation is one of the most heavily covered positions right now in the sport, with a lot of reports indicating that Justin Fields is not long for the New York Jets, with the Jets already having some draft targets mapped out for next year, as a lot of insiders and analysts have already started looking towards that 2026 NFL draft, which is being very hyped up, specifically in regards to that quarterback position, and we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here. And guys, if you're a part of that 60% that's not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing, man. We got great videos coming out every single day. You guys have been killing it recently. Thank you so much for all the support, but let's jump into it. There's a lot to go over on the Jets, as right now Justin Fields is going to be this team's starting quarterback for the entire season, barring some sort of injury. The Jets are moving forwards with Justin Fields, who they signed to that 2-year contract, and they like Fields. They like his leadership. They like the potential that he still has to really break out onto the scenes. However, there has been a lot of discussion surrounding if Justin Fields actually is going to be able to be that guy. Can he be the one to help the New York Jets get back into the playoffs? Can he be their quarterback? The Jets have a very good young core, but the biggest question does lie at that quarterback position. And because of Justin Fields basically being a very big uncertainty for the Jets and really for every team since he got drafted and didn't exactly perform the way that people hoped, the Jets, headlined by GM Darren Mougey, have already been linked to multiple targets in regards to the 2026 NFL draft. And Matt, there's been a few different guys who have been named here, and the first one that we're looking into that was mentioned by Fansided is LaNorris Sellers, who has been linked to the Jets for a while now out of South Carolina. Now, there is an explanation for this, basically saying that you can't fault the New York Jets for diving headfirst into the Aaron Rodgers experiment. Rodgers was coming off some of the best years of his career, and he could have easily been the missing piece for a Jets franchise that has the longest playoff drought in the entire NFL right now. But the experiment has ended, and with zero positive results, there is a crater in the offensive side of the ball where Rodgers and his cronies used to be. And the Jets are in a transition year where they are putting some of the pressure on Justin Fields to perform. Fields was a first-round pick in the 2021 NFL draft by the Bears, and is in a situation now with the Jets where he almost certainly has the best combinations of weapons and offensive line that he's ever had in his entire NFL career. Can he put it together under a new staff? If not, the Jets will be looking to move on quickly, and that's how they highlighted Sellers for this position, Matt, who, more than anything, it feels like the reason he's being linked here is because he's a top quarterback, and the expectation is that the Jets are not going to be good and that they're going to need a quarterback.
The way these mock drafters are doing these drafts, they are not projecting how the Jets season is going to go. They are being given an order for the NFL season, and they're seeing when the Jets are at the top of this order, that means that Justin Fields did poorly. If we're not saying Justin Fields is going to be good or bad, but if we are picking in the top 5 or in the range to get a guy like LaNorris Sellers or the other quarterbacks that we are going to be talking about later in this video, that means Justin Fields wasn't good enough. So we're going to start off by talking about LaNorris Sellers from the University of South Carolina, a dual threat quarterback, which is the number one reason why Aaron Glenn is going to want him. We know that he is looking for a highly mobile quarterback. That's one of the reasons why Justin Fields is being brought in this season to try to figure out if we can just take another bite at that apple to get that dual threat quarterback, hoping that Fields is going to be, or LaNorris Sellers could be, like a Jalen Hurts type. We're not expecting Josh Allen. We're not expecting Lamar Jackson or even a Jaden Daniels. Those aren't fair expectations to put on any player in the NFL. And it's on our GM, Darren Mougey, and the rest of the players to kind of turn into a roster kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a much more realistic range of outcomes. Obviously, it's almost impossible for a quarterback to be just, a top 4 quarterback in the league. If it was easy to acquire something like that, everyone would do it. But obviously, that's not possible. So what this team is going to want to do is put together a roster featuring a very good, but maybe not the best mobile quarterback in the entire league, but then put a good roster around that quarterback. What happens if Justin Fields is really good? You would sign him to a bigger contract, and the downside is he's on a bigger contract, and it would be for probably 4 years instead of the 5-year contract, much cheaper contract that you would get out of a rookie. But another good thing that comes with Justin Fields would be the fact that you get that first-round pick to go spend at another position or go ahead and trade away to see what you can get on the trade market. Now, if you have LaNorris Sellers, That would reset our timeline when it comes to our quarterback contract. Quarterback is one of the most expensive positions in all of sports, definitely the number one most expensive position in the NFL. Some teams, their quarterback is like, they pay him a lot, like Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow, where they're paying him a ton, but they feel good about it because they know they got their guy. And some of the other teams, they are like the Jacksonville Jaguars paying Trevor Lawrence a monstrous contract, or the Green Bay Packers paying Jordan Love a monstrous contract. And they haven't, I understand those two guys aren't on the same level, but they're not on the same level as the other guys getting paid that much money. So we want to make sure that when we do spend top dollar on a quarterback, we want to make sure that we are getting the best quarterback possible. That's why I would really be excited about drafting that rookie quarterback, because when we don't have to pay a veteran quarterback a monster contract, that means we can spend a lot more money on everyone else around the quarterback to put together the best roster that we possibly can.
I agree. And I think similarly, it's not that I'm expecting Justin Fields to be bad per se, but there's just a world that even if Fields is solid, just all right, there's a world the Jets still don't perform. Like, there's still a world where they just aren't some great team. It's not just that Justin Fields has to be okay. Given the Jets, it would help them monstrously because it is what they need most. But still, there's a lot to think about with this situation. I mean, you look at Fields last year getting 1,106 yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Obviously, he's a guy who does it on the ground as well. It's a matter of if he could really take that next step into being a skilled passer. But you look at Sellers, who's played 2 years, really one at South Carolina, as he was not playing the first season. And he had a solid year passing. Again, he's a mobile dual-threat quarterback who... Now Matt's laughing. He's throwing me off. But he's being a dual threat quarterback is something that we know Aaron Glenn likes. He had 196 completions for 299 attempts. That's a 65.6 completion percentage with 18 touchdowns and had 7 interceptions in the process. Are those the numbers of someone who you're thinking, oh, well, he's going to be a top pick in a year from now? No, not necessarily, but the whole point is that, Matt, you've highlighted this, is that this is the time that the great players do take that jump, and Sellers is expected to take that jump into becoming a much, much more talented quarterback this year around after having a full year playing college and being the starting quarterback under his belt. Now, on top of that, there is another guy to go over, easily the most famous person in next year's draft, and that's Arch Manning, where PFN did project the New York Jets to be taking him at that 2nd overall spot. So again, it's not even expecting the Jets are going to be good, and also this is expecting that Manning both leaves for college and plays well, but I feel like both those things will happen. Now, it was mentioned by PFN that there's a very real possibility that Arch Manning will not declare for the 2026 NFL Draft and instead return to Texas for his senior season. However, if that doesn't happen, he has all the tools to be a top selection this year. Manning has only started 2 college football games, but will officially take the helm for the Longhorns in 2025. From the small sample size he put on tape in 2024, it's already clear he has the arm, athleticism, size, and overall skill set to be as good as any quarterback in the country. Manning could be considered the best player in this class with a good season at Texas this year. Now, Matt, when it comes to Arch, obviously, considering who one of his uncles is, there's always a chance that he plays phenomenally and the Jets play horribly and end up with a top pick. And, well, Arch pulls a Manning. It is something that's possible. And I do think that's something the Jets are well aware of. And that's part of the culture shift that we're going to have to see this season.
So, Chris, we always talk about one entity. Or I know it is a stretch that we're saying that a player who has been a backup in college only started 2 years in the NFL, or only started 2 games at Texas, is going to come out and have a monstrous year. But, Chris, we always talk about what's the entity that knows more than anyone else when it comes to sports?
Me.
Las Vegas. Right now, Arch Manning is the odds-on betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, one thing we have to remember is sports books, their number one point isn't to be right. That's pretty much the number one point, but the number one point is to make money. And they think that by putting him as the favorite, it's going to make them the most money because people are going to bet on that. But it also means FanDuel and all these Las Vegas sports books using their group of experts who are way more connected than we will ever be. They are projecting Arch Manning to have a ridiculous breakout season. It's easy to see why. The dude is about 6'5", has a rocket arm. He has athleticism as a Manning, which sounds illegal, but it's true. They brought him in to run the football last year, to run option plays in Quinn Ewers' stead, who was a less athletic player, which is just absolutely insane when you know the arm strength that this guy brings to the table. A lot of people are saying, oh, but he couldn't start over 7th-round pick Quinn Ewers last season. And my response to that is Steve Sarkisian heard all the news. He knows that everyone wants to see Arch Manning start. So he came out in the media and he wanted to put the kibosh on any questions like that. He wanted no outside distractions in his locker room, which is why he named Quinn Ewers the team's starting quarterback. There was no quarterback competition, so Arch Manning could not have taken the spot over Quinn Ewers last season. It's not because Arch Manning isn't and can't be better than Quinn Ewers. Also, Quinn Ewers was the highest recruit in the history of 24/7 recruiting at the time when he got to college. And he had played college football before, which Arch Manning hasn't. So Quinn Ewers had so many different extra things going for him that made him into a better college quarterback option for Texas last year instead of Arch Manning. Now, if you watch both of them, I still think Arch Manning should have started over Quinn Ewers, but that's up to Steve Sarkisian. Definitely a fantastic head coach, one of the best head coaches in all of college football. He knows what he's doing. He decided to start Quinn Ewers. That doesn't mean that Arch Manning isn't going to be better than Quinn Ewers. We have to remember, you are drafting people for what they're going to do in the future, not what they are right now. I don't care who's the starter right now. I want the guy who's going to be better in the future. That's why Arch Manning is going to be a top draft pick, and Quinn Ewers wasn't. If you asked us last year, we have videos on this channel of me literally coming out and saying, Quinn Ewers, I know he was a great prospect coming into college. He's not a good NFL prospect. And look at that. He got drafted in the 7th round. Now, we're going to be right on this again. Arch Manning, I know it's not a hot take, but for some reason there are people out here saying that he hasn't proven anything yet, which is true, but we have seen enough to easily and confidently project Arch Manning as a top 5 pick. For the life of me, I can't understand why he's not the number 1 quarterback on every single pro football scouts board.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure either why there's this weird sort of feeling that he's not going to be the top pick in the draft. I get that he hasn't really played a whole bunch, but all signs point to him being everything that he's been predicted to become from years ago. Arch Manning has been in the spotlight for a very long time. I do expect him to work out. I also don't expect him to necessarily pull a Manning, because if everything goes right, or maybe he will, but not towards the Jets. If everything goes right for the Jets' plans, they might not be good this year, but they're going to become a respectful franchise, and that is a step in the right direction. It does depend on what Justin Fields is going to do as well. We've both said it before. The best way to put it in the nicest way possible is I'm just not going to really get my hopes up.
Yep, and I'm really hoping that Arch Manning is going to declare, because if he does declare, obviously we won't get the opportunity to draft him, but if we don't get the opportunity to draft him, that means someone higher up than us in the draft will take him and push down better players to wherever our draft pick is. So Arch Manning declaring for the draft is going to push down, should we need a quarterback, he will push down one of the other quarterbacks, should it be LaNorris Sellers, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, whoever you want to throw in there, Drew Aller, whoever you think is going to be that next guy off the board. Of course, Gallagher.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, if you think that I should be drafted in the NFL draft, don't subscribe. But if you don't think I should be drafted in the NFL draft, you should subscribe to Jets Digest. Let us know why you're the top pick in 247 Sports for being the Jets Digest subscriber. I don't really know what that means. It made more sense in my head. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. Let's throw eggs at Matt's house.